Welcome to ViviTalks. I'm Vivienne Aerts. Join me in celebrating 100 talented female musicians from my last album, type of thing. Empowering female cacao farmers in Congo's Virunga State Park and restoring the rainforest. Delve into the musical journeys, creative processes, and unique perspectives of these talented women that were involved in the making of this album. Today I'm talking to Maria Alejandra Jimenez, also known as Alea. She's a performer, singer-songwriter, and producer from Barrancas, Guajira, Colombia. Alea's performances encompass an entire generation of ethno-futuristic and folkloric music, accentuated by buttery vocals, deep-rooted grooves, and uplifting guitars. Her studies include a bachelor in organizational communications and a diploma from Berklee College of Music in jazz composition and performance. Alea's in-person performances are powerful and encounters the spirit-passionate travelogues that link downtown New York to a tropical Colombian cantina. There are celebrations of Latin America and definitions of what Latin alternative can be. She released 2 albums as a soloist. Her latest album in 2021, Alborotá, was shortlisted among the best Latin music of the year by Rolling Stone magazine and NPR. Listen to our conversation as we talk about her creative process, her love for different rhythms, and her new upcoming projects. Welcome, Alea, to my official ViviTalks podcast. I'm very excited to have you. We know each other for a long time, all the way back to Berklee. So that's like 14 years ago. So I don't know, 12, 14. Yeah, it's been a while.
Been a
Yeah, so
while since
now
we know.
everybody knows how old we are. But
They don't need to know. It's not
no.
none yet.
I mean, I'm sure people can Google, but no worries about it. Yeah, for the listeners, I love to learn a little bit about your background, where you're from, what do you do, what's keeping you busy, how did you get where you are now?
Oh my God, there's like 5 questions there, Vivian. I'm just kidding. Girl, so Alea, for everybody who's out there listening, a composer, singer-songwriter, artist, performer. I kind of dwell into a lot of different things, but my main thing is my project, my artistic project as Alea. My full name, Maria Alejandra Jimenez Gonzalez, but that's like a whole, it's a mouthful. And I adopted Alea back at Berklee, actually, because I wanted something that was simple and easy, and it just really resounded with what I was trying to create, which was something that I didn't really know what it could be, but I knew that it was going to be huge, and I knew that I wanted it to be something that I could really back and feel connected to for years and years and years. So yeah, this project, this artistic endeavor career that began back then, has, taken a lot of turns and twists, and a lot of things have gone on. I got out of Berklee, so I come from Colombia, first of all, La Guajira, Colombia. So if, you don't know where that is, go Google it. It's important. La Guajira is a peninsula that sticks out into the Caribbean Sea, the northest point of South America and Colombia. And I grew up there in that desert until I was 17. I spoke English because my dad worked for an American company, and I had a huge privilege to actually be able to study and have a bilingual school and have like those opportunities that are so rare, and trying to take advantage of what that has meant for me and for my family, because my family doesn't come from that kind of privilege at all. So it was a huge deal for us to, to do good, to do well in life. There's a lot of pressure. And we ended up, I ended up moving to Medellin when I was 17 to begin a career in communications. I wanted to do music for as long as I can remember, but my family and, they were scared, and they were like, oh my God, but, all this, you're gonna go perform on buses, like what's the plan? So they were like, why don't you, why don't you study, just have it there in your back pocket, for now. And they really did convince me because I really didn't know what I was doing or where to start. I was taking voice lessons. I was, taking piano lessons, flute lessons. I had my own dance group. I was doing theater. I was doing anything and everything that I could get my artsy hands on because I just loved performing and I just wanted to keep developing skills that I knew one day I might need. and just because I enjoyed it, I just really, really felt like that's where I felt the most myself, expressing my emotions and my thoughts and my feelings. And by the time I'm in Medellin, I, study communications, which I kind of love though too, because I got to read a lot and investigate and do a lot of understanding of the world. And, I was coming from such a small town that I felt really disconnected from what was happening everywhere. And in a way, it's interesting because I was disconnected and also very connected, like living full on situations that most people don't live in, when they're that young, but at the same time, kind of far removed from it. So that duality has kind of accompanied me throughout my life, being, Colombian, but speaks English and delves into American culture, but also was super into vallenato, but also super into R&B and super into I don't know, flamenco jazz and then world music. And somehow, I was just kind of going into everything. My dad was a huge collector of CDs and albums. Um, and that kind of helped me kind of connect to what was going on outside. But yeah, by the time I was like 18, 20 years old, I was in Medellin. I had my own band. We were making really weird music, and somehow we were selling out shows. But a lot of people didn't want to do it for the rest of their lives. I did. So my family was like, sort of, what's next? And I'm like, well, I'm definitely not studying more. Here's the diploma. It's been lovely. I'm going to do music. And they were like, but how? Like, what are you gonna do? So, an aunt, because the rumor flew around that I wasn't doing my graduate in communications because I got offered a scholarship, and they were like, "You're turning it what down? What do you can't do that." And I was like, no, 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 listen, it's been real. I already did it for that same reason because I had a full ride for communication. And I was like, I can't keep doing it. I'm not gonna be a happy person. I know. And they were like, okay. So they kind of got it, and they were like keeping their ears open. They heard Berklee was going to Colombia for the first time. And they were like, why don't you apply to this university? And I was like, studying music? I don't even know. Like, I didn't imagine what studying music was like. I was taking ear training lessons. I was taking like harmony. I was taking like things like I found like a little music academy that I thought was pretty cool. And I was taking voice lessons on the side. Um, but I just couldn't imagine the workload of doing music full time. Even though that's kind of like where my creativity was always at, was always creating melodies, harmonies, directing my band by singing to them, telling them, I want you to do this, and can you do this on the piano, and can you do this on the drums, and feeling very free in that way and very empirical, no idea if the harmony worked or not. I was just kind of, going by ear there. And yeah, I ended up applying. I got in, and it was huge because then I was like, so now I actually have to leave. Oh shit. Sorry. And I was like, oh, well, I never thought I'd end up in the US. That's all I'm gonna say about that. Um, I was kind of, I'm not gonna say against it, but I really wanted to explore South America and Europe and like the rest of the world. And like I kind of antagonized America a bit growing up. I think we all did a little bit in the sense that I was very into a, socialism and like equal opportunities for people and education for everybody and all of that. And I kind of had the US in this image that they weren't that great at that. And y'all know where I'm at now. But I realized I was more of a centralist, that I was politically somebody who wanted that too, but who also wanted to have a career, a sustainable career, and who had to kind of maybe rethink a little bit of some of these positions and figure out how to live in a world that was constantly, wherever I'd be, art wasn't the priority. 100%. Music wasn't anybody's first choice. And if I was going to do it, it was going to be here or there or anywhere. So yeah, I moved to the US, thought I'd be here for a year, ended up staying for 3 at Berklee. Then I was like, well, I'll apply for the OPT. If I get it, great. If I don't, I got it. I was like, damn, okay, I guess I'm staying another year. Then I applied for my artist visa, also thinking, well, if I get it, great. If I don't, I'll go back. And I got it. And it's been 3 artist visas later, still here, 9 years later. Now trying to get my green card, and realizing how life, you make a lot of plans and it doesn't work out, but sometimes it works out much better than you thought. And music has been like that route and that like guiding light in the middle of a lot of uncertainty. And it's like at the end of the day, what do I want to do? What keeps me motivated, is this. I've had full-time jobs. I've done it all. You can ask me as an entrepreneur, oh, how do you make money as an artist, girl? I think we're all doing a lot of different things. I've put my work to the test and to the limits, my voice to the limits. I've performed in so many places with so many bands. And I also realized it wasn't completely necessary to do that all the time. I was exhausted. I was very, very burned out. And I wanted to change it. And I realized that it was my life that I needed to change, like how I was viewing things. So I decided to focus fully on my project. That if I played with people here and there, it was okay, but it wasn't like a necessary thing or how I was going to make money. I realized I wanted to work in other kinds of things too, maybe even developing other companies and other projects from that perspective. I ended up working in commercial music. Well, I did a bunch of things before that, from from waitressing to babysitting to teaching kids to baby birthday parties to a lot of different kinds of entertainment. And then decided, I got an injury in 2018. So that really made me like reset the whole using my voice 24/7 wasn't great. That's what I studied at Berklee. I went for voice performance and jazz composition. I ended up doing music, professional music in the end, because I was just like, I need to graduate. I need to get out of here. And I ended up kind of putting everything, all the subjects I had already seen, which I was basically done with anyway, like all the cores for both, and kind of just graduating out of that. And in that time, and by the time I had this injury, I realized I needed to do something a little bit more low key in my day so that I could save my voice for my project and for the things I wanted to do. So yeah, that's where I'm at today. I do work though now, which is very funny. I ended up going into commercial music, but I ended up doing something that I really love doing, which is voiceover work and narration. And I do a lot of voice therapy anyway, just because I got to keep that, that instrument healthy and well. And I do that a lot now. I also, teach some voice lessons and, yeah, because I stopped working last year. That's the whole thing. I decided last year that I was taking a new start, a new chapter in my life last October, and I quit my job, my full-time, nice paying job, and to do music again full-time, because sometimes you're crazy like that. Don't follow me, okay?
That full-time job was in working as a teacher?
I was a producer at a music
producer.
company.
Okay.
But not so, producer means a lot of things. I don't know if you've tried to to
Yeah,
find what production means.
it could
I
be
think
anything.
production is the capability to organize, strategize, and execute a project, any
Mm,
project, right? So producer could be an event producer, a commercial producer, music producer, a lot of things. So that's why I think it's such a like broad word. But I was working as a music producer, but I wasn't doing the compositions per se. I was more directing what had to be done and like being a bridge between brands and our composers, things like that.
mm.
Translating. It's also my
That's great.
skill.
But yeah, you're right. If you have no time to focus on your own project, at some point you have to
Yeah,
make a decision, right?
you gotta make a
Get
choice.
back
I
to
mean,
yourself.
listen, I hate being told I can't do everything. I don't like it. I don't like when people tell me you gotta choose. You do have to choose, but I think what people mean is eh, there's only so many hours in the day, and we are finite, and you gotta choose where to spend your time and how it makes sense to you. And that was for
Mm,
me, it wasn't choosing one career or another. It was what made sense for me in my happiness as a woman. And yeah, music was number one. Being a mother was also number one. Having a family was also number one. And here I am somehow doing all three.
yes,
Yeah,
you're very pregnant. It's so exciting.
very
A
pregnant.
whole new chapter coming up.
Yeah, yeah. I'll
Yeah.
fill you in. I'll fill you in how we're keeping up.
You'll be fine. Yeah, it's exciting. I love to learn a little bit more about your creative process, how you approach writing and composing music, because I really love your songs and I've seen a bunch of it. So tell me,
Oh my God. Well,
how do you write?
writing for me has always been more of a means of expressing myself. And I think I'm not, saying that's not how everybody does it, but like for me, it's not, it's very, very personal. And it used to be a little too personal to the point that it was kind of painful to do it. But I had to do it because I didn't know how else to express myself. Sometimes you grow up in places where talking about what you're going through isn't normal or people don't want to hear it. And um, even your mom gets a little like, maybe you're a little too sensitive, girl. I think you need to like chill. And um, for me, it became an escape. And I found that people preferred the artist me that could express all of these things and make beautiful things than me just talking about it. And it's taken me a lot of years in therapy to figure that out. So it's a huge question when you ask me like where do you write from? How do you write? How do you get going? Your process. Like I mean there's a technicality to it. And I think of it more of as there are people who dedicate themselves to songwriting and they can write about absolutely anything. The skills are there. They got it to a science. For me, I have the skills, I can do that science, but I don't like to tie myself down to that because I feel like it's very restricting to where I'm at sometimes. In general, I pick up, I'm constantly writing in my head ideas. I'm constantly, recording ideas on my phone. I have a journal that I write into a lot. Um, and out of those things, sometimes I realized I had a very like, and not to shoot, to give myself a lot of praises, but I think I have like a very poetic voice, and I end up, I think it's more the poetry than the songwriting, and that's where I was going. I like to write a lot in a poetic version, in a poetic way, and I even when I'm journaling, and I don't necessarily do it on purpose. It just kind of comes out that way. So I end up like taking lines out of that and sometimes just writing the full thing, full poems that have melodies that somehow are music as well. Um, Sometimes I begin by a rhythm. I really love rhythm, and I've studied a lot of rhythm over my life, coming from a place that is so fluent. Almost you don't even know that you have that language. Like when I got to Berklee and I was studying Latin rhythms, I was like, well, I know what that is, but I didn't really know, because one thing is to have it interiorized in your body, to be able to feel it. Another thing is to be able to think it. Another thing is to be able to break it down. Another thing is to be able to translate it for other people who don't speak that language to you. And I realized that that was something that I wanted to learn more. So I've tried to do that a lot, into a lot of different Latin American rhythms. And when I say Latin American, very broadly, but I hope listeners get that I'm talking, each country has hundreds, thousands of rhythms. And I've dwelled into a few in Argentina, a few in Colombia, a few in Mexico, a few in Peru, a few in everywhere, and just kind of tried to take a little bit of that, and seeing how my own history and my own ancestry kind of resonates with that as well. I kind of make some choices in the writing depending on the style that I want to go to or how I'm feeling. Lately, I've been writing a lot of, well, not lately, but the last year, the last album, the album I'm producing right now, and the songs that I wrote in that moment were very R&B, very painful, very, songs about heartbreak, songs about, which I hadn't really done much before, because that's another thing I used to do. I used to like write in a very metaphorical way, so you basically wouldn't know what I was talking about exactly. It wouldn't say he did this and I did that. It would be like, and the waves of the world, something. And then it ended up being like all these covert messages. But I also realized that I was kind of fooling myself, and I wanted to be able to reach people more directly. So I even reinvented that part in myself a few years ago, where I kind of started trying to write in a more direct way. And that's been a huge challenge, because it's like I feel like I'm bearing my soul a little too much. Um, but yeah, it's been from that. I collaborate with people a lot. I take my lyrics, my song. Sometimes I have chords for them. Sometimes I don't. I don't really stress too much about chords. I used to stress so much about chords, because chords make me really nervous. And and it's because I don't know why, but it's just always been a thing. And I realized I didn't have to do absolutely everything, but I do. I kind of, I do some progressions, and I say I kind of want it to go through here, and then I either record a small demo on my computer with the voice, with the lyrics, with whatever chords I do have,
On the
small
guitar or the piano?
synths, yeah, small. I just have a little 2-octave synth that I work with. Um, Either that, or I literally just send like the melody and rhythm, just that, and then I send it to whoever I want to work the song with, to help me finish it for like a final music production, editing, mix, everything.
Mm.
I've worked with a lot of different people. I really like to go working with people that I feel like I connect with and that like get my artistic vision. Um, and I also like the challenge of, because when you work in collaboration, like the results can be so out of your mind. Like you can't really know how it's going to turn out. And I like working with people that are very open to experimenting and trying weird things, and being like, this sounds good, but could we add like this drum here? I know it makes no sense, but like, do like I'm really feeling this flute. I'm really feeling this like, and this like chord out of the blue that'll just be there for no reason. It has nothing to do with the harmony. And
Mm.
then and then somehow it adds like some cinematic, maybe even, I don't know, some other like depth to things, not just like this is your background music.
And then do you go into the studio for those demos, or the first basic, or do you take the whole band in the studio eventually, or how's that?
I've done it both ways. For my first EP, I took a whole band. It was like, it wasn't at Berklee, but it was in a studio in Boston. And I did that. I went with my home arrangements. Just got out of Berklee. I had, parts for
Stack of
everybody.
papers.
Oh, so many papers, so many papers, so many notes, so many
Yeah.
chords. Ugh, how intense. And I was like, "You want chords? I'll give you chords. I got the chords." Just like fucking put everything on paper. It was
Oh,
crazy. I listened back to that and I think, well, that's insane. But okay. And we got into the studio. It was like 16 of us, and we recorded the rhythm section
16.
first, and then we recorded the horns, and then we recorded the voices, um, and then some different percussion lines. We layered though. We didn't do it full live,
Okay.
but it was all acoustic instrumentation. And then for my second album, we worked from home. Um, my producer at the time, which was also my partner, had a home studio, and he was just really brilliant at working artisanally. Like he learned to produce with no guide from anybody. I mean, like he
Mm.
probably dwelled into YouTube videos and did, like things like here and there, and he learned from other engineers who gave him like tricks in there, but he really did learn on his own. He didn't go to a school for it or anything. So he was very empirical, and I really liked that because it felt very raw and very honest. And he had really great ideas in terms of miking, in terms of layering, from where to start
Mm.
layering, the kind of instruments we were choosing. We also had a lot of freedom. So it was basically just him and me in the studio, in our house, in our living room, like putting it together one day at a time, 2 tracks, 3 tracks, 4 tracks. By the time we knew it was like these crazy monster projects. Those songs were really insane. It took us years to put it together, like 3 years, I think. But it was such a huge experience for me because I felt so like technologically impaired. Always, even at Berklee, I hated it. That's why I did jazz composition because I was so nervous to do like contemporary writing and production. I was like, no, computers and we're just not good friends. It's not gonna work out. So let me do safely writing by hand. I can do writing by hand, which is a lie. I ended up doing a bunch of production anyway, but I was so scared of it. So this opportunity really opened the doors to understanding like DAWs and well, he used to use Pro Tools, so I really had to learn Pro Tools because in the end he was like so tired from editing and we had so many channels and like I was like and I needed to go kind of faster so I was like let me edit the voices so I ended up learning how to edit my own voice and
Mm.
learning how to work and be really punctual because we didn't really use like almost no auto we didn't use autotune at all for that album. We did like if we had to like tune something we would use like the basic little tuner that I think the DAW brings. I don't know if anybody knows what I'm
Yeah,
talking about.
you can just
But Pro
drag
Tools
it a
has like
little
this.
bit, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. So
you can
no
only go
no
so much, and
added
it's not very
like
precise. So
no
if you don't do it
melodyne where
right,
it just like the whole thing is brought
yeah,
up, no.
exactly. It's not very
Like minor
precise, and
tweaks. Yeah.
if you don't sing it well,
Yeah.
even if you are out of pitch, it's gonna sound really bad and really auto-tuned if you don't know it.
Right.
But we figured out a way to make it work because I don't know why we were so against autotune, but it was like a whole thing about not using autotune. We didn't want it, we didn't want to
Yeah.
buy
I
it, we
get
were
it.
like not using it. And I ended up having to re-record and to really learn how to listen in the studio to my voice and how to get what I was thinking of
Right.
in the studio. Because one thing is there, another thing is in performance, another thing is your voice, outside. It's like completely three different settings. and the studio is very scary because you're hearing yourself and you're almost a little cringed out by it. I
Yeah,
think
it's
most
intense.
people have that feeling when they're like, ugh, I don't like how I sound. Um, and it wasn't more of like not liking how I sounded, but it was like I didn't want to sound like that. There was a goal somewhere
Mm.
how I wanted to. So it took a lot of fine tuning and it took a lot of thinking and a lot of rewriting sometimes. Like some songs would be like really fast. Some of them would be like, nope, that lyrics isn't working. And like I liked working with Sinoe because he was cool in that sense where he was very demanding and very challenging. Like he wouldn't let me half-ass like anything. He would be like, you could do so much better than that. And I would be like, "Ugh,
Mm.
but I'm so tired." And then I'd have to like redo this whole thing or like writing the lyrics to a song and I just wanted to get it over with. And he was like, "Come on. Like you can do better than that. Like this isn't like Alborotá level." Or like he would compare it to
Mm.
another song I'd written before. I'd be like, "Oh, he's right. Damn it." So he wouldn't let me like really creatively like back down and he would really hold me accountable. And it was hard. It was really hard. It felt like um it was a huge challenge every time we got into the studio or when we were doing the songwriting sessions. Yeah, Alborotá was like one of the most amazing experience. I feel like that really was my master's degree in artistic development, putting out
Mm.
music, campaigning, marketing, learning, and I'm still learning so much. But from all the mistakes I made in that time, I'm taking classes with like a private like publishing agent, just to be able to do things a little bit tighter in that side and trying to button up where things weren't as buttoned up as I thought they were.
Mm.
And as an independent artist, you take a lot of, I don't know if shortcuts is the way to say it, but you don't have money to pay for everything. And you can't hire everybody. So you kind of try to do everything yourself and all these little things, and then you missed a button or you missed this other thing, or you were like, I'll just go with the cheaper version and whatever you
Yeah.
took that step, that was $50. I can tell you, they're gonna hurt 4 years later. You're gonna spend them anyway, but it's fine. At that time, I didn't have the $50. Now I do, so I pay for the classes. I'm putting stuff together, but it's been a huge.
Where's those classes? I'm curious. I would
I
take
just have a
those.
friend. I took, it's like
Oh.
I know he's a publishing consultant,
Uh-huh.
and he actually went to Berklee, if I'm not wrong.
Oh.
Pretty sure he did. He performs with a friend of mine called Luis. His name is Andres Marin. He's incredible.
Ah,
And I just needed him to help me like revise contracts and like I was dealing with this thing where I'm about to publish this song tomorrow,
yes.
this new song, and there was a lot more involved in how this album is being done and
Mm.
collaborating in a level that I didn't used to do before. What I mean is they're already signed to labels and to publishers
Yeah.
and to things and that implies a lot of other people and eyes on whatever you say, whatever contract they sign, and even if they're pals, you know, business is business. You gotta have
Right.
it together. So
So
I
you're currently not on a label, right? You're self-produced. Did you get your own
self-produced
label?
independent. Right now, I have my own publishing company, but I didn't create a label. I've been thinking of doing it, but it takes a lot more energy in the day that I'm willing to spend right now. I think it might be something for the future. Yeah, I don't know. Labels.
What would be the advantage of having your own label then?
Um, I think it's more of, to be honest, having a label or at least the shell of a label, which is I think what a lot of artists do,
Yes, like
is
an
more of
entity that's
an
official.
entity, is something that works legally, protects you and not it doesn't bind you. Like your personal assets are a little bit more protected because there's like a little distance between you and your art. It's, oh, this is my company and it's formal. So you have to,
Hmm.
if anything ever happens in the future, you attack the label, not the person. It's kind of like really what an LLC is.
Yeah.
Um, but uh, I'm not gonna, unless you have very clear goals on what you want to do with the label, which is not just for your music. You maybe want to work with other artists, or you want to be able
Yeah.
to invest in culture or in arts or in, apply for funding as a company and not as an individual, which is huge. There's so many grants out there for companies um, versus for individuals, right? So
Right.
it's like, I think that's kind of the thing. If that's where your goal is at, if that's where your mind's at with having a label, do that. Yeah.
But
I'm
having a
still not.
production company would be equal of a
Same
company,
thing.
right? That you can
Same thing.
work with.
Production
Yeah.
company, label, name it however you want to name it. In the end, if you change what your goals are or how you're, using or investing the money, you still
Yeah.
have a company that is away from you. Away, you know, not really it's yourself. But I think it is important. And I think if people do it at least with some sort of goal in mind, not just to have it, because it'll be expensive in the long term. Like it's not like, "Oh, I'm just gonna have a label, you gotta put it together. It's at least $500 to just incorporate. And then you have to do all of these other things to make it happen. And then you have to report taxes, and it has to be a whole thing, and then every quarter, and then every year. And then, 3 years later, if you're not really, if you can't take losses, like it's not like, having yourself as an individual. So that's where I'm at. Yeah.
Awesome. I love to learn a little bit more about you as a performer, right? Do you take these songs with the whole band as it's on tape? Do you take them all on the road, or do you perform different groups and you change it up, or you work with all different settings?
My performance. I think the show that you've been to or that people have been to in the last 3, 4 years has been a really polished show that we put together since Alborotá. And in that time, we had a fully acoustic approach where we wanted to, and by acoustic, I mean like
Real
no strings.
instruments,
Yeah,
right?
real instruments. We wanted to have like that full experience because I think that's where my strong suit is as an artist is performing live is very important to me, and it's very important that it feels real and raw and like you're living it in that moment,
Mm.
creating that environment and that experience with like very top performers and people that are like just brilliant at like their instrument. um, Brilliant in the sense of, yes, very good at it, but also very smart at making decisions in real time.
Mm.
And respectful and good to work with, and all those things as well. Very important. Just saying. All of that is taken into consideration. So we put together a set list that was a mix of Alborotá, so all my album, with covers of Latin American repertoire that
Hmm.
were inspiration for that album. So we ended up doing like that huge set. But now my set list is changing because my new production is much more electronic. There are synths and there's a
Cool.
lot of different elements, octopeds and trying. So we're trying to make that switch, and it's been a huge challenge. But life itself kind of presented the opportunity to make those changes, and we added an octopad, we added a bass synth. We're adding some effects, an electric guitar, which I didn't used to have, an electric bass as well, with pedals and all kinds of things and fun stuff. I'm
Cool.
trying to dwell a little bit more into how I'm gonna be putting that on stage myself, but I'm not ready yet. I'm still working on it. And also because the songs that are coming for this album called Deja que se rompa todo, which means let everything break, uh,
Mm.
the songs in this production are much more electronic. They're R&B, a Latin American, Latin alternative infused creations. They're very soulful, but they're also like they have like strong beats in the back, or 808s, things that I wasn't using at all before. It's been a huge shift because I wanted to do it. I really wanted to dwell in it. I wanted to stop being scared of it too. And I wanted
Hmm.
to bring that out in like a way that people could relate to my music even more. And it's interesting because before, my shows would have like very, energetic moments, and we had dancers and everything for a few songs, but it was more intimate in the sense that there was big voice moments and very ranchera, just guitar and voice moments, and it was very, very, very performative, vocally oriented. But in this new show, there's much more dancing. There is much more energy happening, and we're kind of slowly transitioning. I'll put in a song here and there from the past, just because I love them, and I think it's important to honor where you're at and where you've been. And we've made new arrangements to some of those tracks, and with this current instrumentation. And
Mm.
and yeah, I think it's just my performance is that's where we're at right now. It's like a seven-piece band. It changes, as you were asking, depending on the scene, the buyer, and
Yeah, where it is.
the place. Yeah. Um, yeah, we've been kind of doing that. And well, right now I'm kind of taking a little break from performing as much. So, yeah, maybe I'll be back next year with a new show. We'll see.
Yeah, exciting. Can you share a significant moment when your music had some impact on somebody's life, or and any moment during a show that you remember where um
Yeah, I mean, I've had a few of those. I feel like live, um, I've had a few moments where people have come up to me mentioning how they cried or they let out an emotion that they had held in,
mm,
and that a certain song connected to them in such a way that they had to let it out. Um, and that was always very significant because I've always felt very alone, like a lonely person, and I don't know why, but this is like a thing I've always had since I was very little. And when I go into performance, I bring out that part of me, that child, that, whatever wounds were there. And I try to
mm,
bring it into my performance, also to heal myself. So when you're seeing others heal through what you're doing, I don't know, I think it's like the best feeling in the world. It makes it like worth it. And like, oh, this is why I do what I do. This is why. This
yeah,
is this
totally.
connection. This is how making all these TikTok videos make sense.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, totally. Um, so switch gears a little bit. As you're on my album that's all about women. So I'd love to hear a little bit about you and women, stereotypes or biases. How have have you come across them, or how do you challenge and overcome them? Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Alborotá, the word Alborotá means rowdy, but like the feminine version of it. And
Mm.
it's in Spanish, it usually means like being too sexual, or being too much, just being too much. Like you need to tone,
Rebellious.
you need to be more demure or something.
There we go.
Now that we're on demure. But Alborotá is like the whole opposite of that. And
Mm.
I was called that word a lot around when I was little. It was
Huh.
really hurtful. And I I got into a few situations throughout my life as a woman, from accost to abuse to um, things that weren't my fault, but that happened, and that you realize how much of a prey you are, and you kind of either, you go. I feel like as a woman, you make a choice. You're like, you either buy into it and keep going and just try to figure it out. You go completely the other way and you decide masculine energy, huge clothes. I don't want nothing to touch me, nothing. I've been at both situations. I've been at I've taken out my hair and being like, I don't want anybody to look at me or to even say, you look good today. Um, but I also came to a lot of healing when I understood that my sexuality wasn't the problem, it was society. Um, and I decided to embrace who I was, my body, my heritage, my ancestry, and write a full album about that. Um, so it was Alborotá was a very big part of coming out as a feminist, I guess.
Mm.
And because in Colombia, especially in Latin America, I feel like saying feminist is very frowned upon. I think even here people still are a little scared of the word feminist,
Yeah.
um, because it's confused with radicalism and movements of um, very, extreme actions. It does imply one thing and the other sometimes, but feminism is a philosophy and it is a current that you study. So whatever actions people take is on them. Um, but as a collective, and as many collectives that feminism has birthed, I feel that my take is in the arts and how I can abide for other women in the arts and represent and also be able to advocate for myself and for others. It's kind of a way to be brave as well and to say, I'm not okay with this. Learn to set boundaries and be like, oh, and have the vocabulary to say why it's not okay and how you can repair what you just did. Um,
Mm.
because it feminism doesn't apply to women versus men. We're all very guilty of chauvinism and misogyny and of perpetuating it culturally. So my take has been to put it on the table and to, say it, talk about it. And that's kind of where I've been at, is kind of holding more and more conversations on this through my life. And when I talk to other women, to other artists who tell me about, what they've gone through and how they've overcome it or how they're overcoming it now, because there's a lot going on out there. It's not just, romance is changing, has changed, not is changing, has changed fully. A romantic relationships, how you familiar relationships, a lot of things of how we relate to other people in general, everybody, even to yourself, all of that is changing in a very rapid pace that our parents can't even comprehend. Like, talking about all of the things that's happening, our parents are like, what is going on, right? um but I think it's important to have the tools and the language to not alienate, but to bridge a little bit and to yeah, to make it accessible for everybody.
Mm.
And that's kind of my goal, where my goal is at with that. Because it's not a, women versus women or men versus women or women versus men. It becomes, it's not about antagonizing. And I think sometimes people get really caught up in that like discussion and
The blaming.
forget
Yeah.
what the whole point of the whole thing was anyway. Are you in
Right.
this conversation to repair, to heal, to tell me, to
Right.
educate me, or are you in this conversation, to attack and to be defensive and to, prove a point? Like, where are you at that you need to do
Right.
this to other people? Um, yeah, and up to, I think that's where I'm at with that.
Yeah. Do you have any advice for aspiring women musicians who are just starting out? A
Okay,
lot.
that's a huge question. I mean,
I know.
I could keep it light, you know, I could be like, yeah, go for it. Be strong-minded and uh, you know, be authentic. I love that one. Be authentic and be genuine and show your art and you know, be persistent. I love those. They're not just box things. They are important words. But they've been thrown around so much.
Yeah.
Um, how can you be authentic and what does genuine mean? And you know, what does being persistent mean in actions? Um, it's such a huge conversation. But I think what I'm trying to get to is, whew, being a woman is hard. And the only thing we can do as other women is to not be gatekeepers and to try to have conversations like this one and
Yeah.
to just be open to mentoring and to working with people where you can and how you can and if you have the time for it, right? And for other girls who are just starting their careers is to reach out to other women and to ask questions, a lot of questions, uncomfortable questions, like uncomfortable questions to the people around them and to the women around them and to research, you know. I feel like it's important to make your own opinions and minds about things and what works for you will not work for other people. So,
Yeah. Mm, yeah. That that's very well put. To create diverse situations where everybody feels
mhm.
appreciated and that the conversation is able to happen. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, totally. Um, a more light version, maybe a question I have: how do you navigate balance between staying true to your artisticity or artistic vision and meeting commerciality
Woo.
or whatever people might be expecting from you?
Have fun and don't take yourself too seriously.
Mm,
I think um, my biggest break and like my biggest hold up more in life has been myself and feeling like my art had to be in such a perfect way and in such a you know, intense serious way that I couldn't have fun with it. And
mm,
then, you know, I had this moment where I think I was trying to dream about where I wanted my music to be in 10 years. And the vision I had was dancing on stage to my favorite music and having fun. And I was like, how do I get there? And I was like, well, you don't do that by being the most slick in jazz. And I don't think you do that by knowing all the scales and being a brat about, you know, all the chords and about, um, you know, having the smartest lyrics. Because I bet you that's not what's going on out there with everybody else. But I also wanted to hone and honor my creative voice and what feels right and true to myself. So I was like, and if I do this, but with this beat in the back and something that makes me want to dance to it, and something that makes me want to communicate it to people.
mm.
And that made a huge difference because now I don't feel ridiculous. I do feel ridiculous, but I don't like feel ridiculous doing TikTok videos. I used to, oh God, I hate it. You have no idea how much, where, you know, how far we've come along. I've come along. When I started, I didn't even have Instagram. I hated it. I hated everything that had to do with it. And I think I've had to overcome a lot of my own prejudices and stereotypes on what I thought people looked like, until I understood that it wasn't about looking like anything. If you have a brand and these are the tools you have to market and to let people know about what you're doing, use them. They're free.
Yeah, it's already available. You're right.
It's already
Well,
available.
that's exactly what I'm seeing. If you're right, and if I scroll through your timeline, but also if I see you on those stages, there's so much fun. You're dancing. It's it's the bright colors that you're in light. That's exactly what you're doing. So
Thank you.
yeah,
I
awesome.
think it's that and keeping it real, Not
Yeah.
everything is gonna be bright and colors. Sometimes it'll be a very sad song, and sometimes it'll be a really tough moment. But I feel like when you share those parts of yourself, that authentic part of yourself, not
Mm,
just the mask, um, it comes from a place of connections. Like people will see that part of you, and it's interesting how many more people will connect to that, and be more of a genuine. They'll feel like this person and I, we see eye to eye, you know.
yeah.
It won't be as polished, and it probably won't be as put together as everybody, or as whatever standard you're looking into, out of yourself. Eh, but it will be real. Nobody can take that away from you, the good
Yeah.
or the bad.
Beautiful. I want to thank you so much. Where can people find all the things you do?
Of course.
Um,
Thanks
we'll
so
we'll
much,
put the website in the
Vivienne.
bottom of the descriptions. I think it's aleamusic.com
Alea
and
Music, yeah.
yeah.
If you guys can search on Instagram, go to Alea Music, which is spelled Alea Music. You'll find that as well for my website, aleamusic.com. You can find that on X, TikTok, the whole thing. If you go to my YouTube channel, though, it's gonna be Alea Music, Alea Music, where you'll find like really great music videos. I really pour my heart into making like really great visuals, so
Mm,
it'd be really great if you guys could go and subscribe. And that's it. Yeah, let's chat.
yes. Thank you so much for being here and being part of my project. It's been a pleasure to know you and to
Thank
present
you, Vivienne.
your
Thank you so
story
much.
to whoever is listening. And
Oh,
yeah, hope
thank
to
you.
see you
No, thank you.
soon.
I'm very excited for you, and I'm very excited for what you're doing as well. I feel that holding these conversations is important, and that your album brought a lot of people together who probably never thought they'd be on an album together. So I think that that's really cool, because there's a lot of people,
Yes.
that it became like a huge like melting pot of creative individuals that just wanted to honor, that voice and that ancestral like lineage. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
And yeah, thank you for
Thank
having
you.
me, and we'll
Mm,
chat.
yes.
Amazing.
See you.
Bye.
As I conclude this episode of ViviTalks, I want to express my sincere gratitude for joining me in this musical journey. I hope you enjoyed exploring the stories and experiences of the incredible female musicians on my album. To stay updated on our latest episodes, subscribe to ViviTalks on your favorite podcast platform. Connect with me on social media through Vivercha, and please check out my album Type of Thing, a musical exchange featuring 100 female musicians to empower female cacao farmers of Virunga State Park in Congo. It's about more than just music. It's about making a positive impact in the world. Your support is part of that journey, so thank you once again for tuning in. Until next time, keep celebrating the power of music, and let's continue to amplify the voices of remarkable women in the industry. Stay inspired, stay empowered, and keep the music flowing. With love and gratitude. Till soon.